Okie doke. So I'd really like to thank everybody for participating today. We've just found these so valuable over this week, the things that we're finding out and the conversations that people are having with each other. Hi, Kira.
Hi.
And that's probably why I felt the need to ring some of you up, because I didn't know whether you were coming, because I didn't want you to miss out. So, yeah, so for anybody who hasn't met James, James is our tourism guru who knows lots about lots of things. And we've got our fingers in lots of different pies at the moment. I don't even want to share that with you. It's just too many. But it's good for the region. It's good for the region. And as always, I'd just like to thank Local Buying Foundation for their funding for this series, because it's, yeah, they've just been, it's been fabulous. And, you know, having all the webinars and the mentoring that we've had available, I've had some lovely testimonials from people about the mentoring. And this series that we're doing at the moment, it's sort of like going to create some action. So I'll hand it over to James to get started.
Thank you, Chrissy, and thanks everyone for taking some time to join us. So this is not like the normal webinars. This is a opportunity to share information. And as Chrissy said, this is about number 6 or 7. 6, Chrissy. We've been doing. Sorry. We've been doing like-minded groups, so caravan parks together, small motels together, so on. And then in some of the more distant areas, like the Isaac area, we've been doing it as a destination. So what we're trying to do is have some opportunities to share information. And as Chrissy has just taken some of my thunder, but that's all right, Chrissy. Sorry. Every session we've learned new things, and people have been able to share things. So, for instance, we had the small motels and self-catering places on a couple of days ago, and they said, can you get the restaurants please to let us know when they're open? Because we don't know, we don't want to send people to places where, you know, we want to be able to give them some good recommendations. So we talked about how that might happen in terms of getting your information through to them. Chrissy, I think we were talking about perhaps using the Mackay closed Facebook or members page for that as one of the options.
Yeah, I've actually opened up that page. I have to approve people that come in, but it's just not a members page anymore. We've opened it up a little bit more so, you know, there's other people that may not necessarily be members, but, you know, interested in this thing, just to sort of make it a bigger conversation. But yeah, it's a great spot.
So there's an opportunity, you know, for those that are getting their restaurants, cafes back operating, to pop a little note on there, and then the industry will be looking at that to see what the news is. So that's, I think, a really important thing. And we had a plea, didn't we, Chrissy, from saying, yeah, please, we want to give you business in terms of that, and we want to be able to. Someone said, oh, well, they had one of their guests drove around town for half an hour the other night trying to find somewhere that was open. So we understand the challenges with COVID, but, you know, there's an opportunity to connect the buyer and yourselves.
Yeah, and Melissa also, she said when she was in, Melissa can't be on here right now. She was in Darwin before here, like she's doing a business coaching thing, but she was in Darwin before here, and she said what she found some of the restaurants were doing, where they'd pop in just with a voucher for them, you know, so that maybe they could go and have an entree and then they'd buy their own meal or whatever, but sort of like an introduction to the restaurant. And she said, you know, she lived at Trinity Beach, so it's probably a smaller sort of community, but she said they were very active in all doing that and connecting with their accommodation providers. So it was basically just a knock on the door. Yeah.
Yep. So I know everyone's busy, but, you know, that's a great idea of a sales call, so to speak. And you know, if you put that together with putting what you're doing on that Facebook page, that'll help make everyone happier, the visitors happier, and hopefully your wallet's fuller in terms of that. We want to also talk about, we've got Gillian there with us, we want to talk about local produce and local food. It's really, you know, food is the #1 tourism segment growth segment that we've had over the last couple of years, and it's getting more and more. Chrissy can talk to you about what's happening at the markets in Mackay, but since COVID, it's really just shown to people that they need to be and want to be sure of where their foods come from, the provenance of the food. So I work across a whole range of places in Queensland, and we're getting the same feedback from everywhere. People are, buying local boxes of food, of fruit and veggies, and that will continue afterwards. We've got an avocado grower whose son used to just put the spare avocados on a roadside stall. He's now supplying to Brisbane. He's got it on Facebook, and he's doing cartons of avos, I think at $40 a carton delivered. So there's a whole lot of new opportunities come up with it. But the big thing, I think, is that there's always been this interest in local produce. And if you're traveling, what's local to the area, what's fresh, what's whatever. But it's really been heightened by COVID. So Chrissy and I, we won't annoy people, will you, Chrissy? But we want to work with Greater Whitsunday Food Network to get people using local produce whenever they can. We've got about an hour and a half video on that, which Chrissy will make available to all of you to look at. And we're happy to talk to you about, it's not just having it on it. And I think the question you asked Chrissy before about, is it on your menu? The question was meaning, do you have, let's have a look and see, the lettuce and herbs from Dean and Alison at Grasstree Beach, because that really puts that connection between the farmer and the consumer, your customer. So it's nice to say I've got local whatever, but say who it's from and where it's from, because it's just making that connection.
Just add a little bit in there, James.
Sorry.
Do you mind if I jump in quickly?
Go if you like. That's what this is about. This is not a talking at, it's a talking with session.
This is a free call. Go for it.
Okay, so we also have Kira Tully here, who is looking after everything to do with our markets at the moment. She's our events and marketing coordinator, and I'm working with the Greater Whitsunday Food Network to help them to deliver get this regional food and agritourism development project. So our big focus is getting everybody in our region, so Mackay, Isaac and Whitsunday, to really understand what produce, what food, what livestock is being produced in our region, and how we can get hold of it, how we can have it in not only our homes but also our restaurants and cafes. With COVID, we had to really turn around and change our perspective, our direction, but in doing that, and as James was saying, with this increased awareness that's happening as people are looking to know more about where their food comes from, our market has been exploding, and I mean literally exploding. It's so fantastic. And with that, because we changed our focus, we were able to dedicate funding to actually getting our farmers' stories on video, and they are coming out. We're drip feeding everybody. So we're sending out a member video once a week. It's on our network page. It's also on our Greater Whitsunday Farmers Market page, Facebook, and also on our YouTube channel. If you jump in and have a look at that, you will be starting to get an idea of the fabulous and amazing produce and wonderful chefs and cooks that are in our region who are really keen to get this happening. And it'll also provide you with the opportunity to make that contact, to comment and to get feedback from them, to get feedback from us as a staffing team, and yeah, help you with those connections. So that's what we're here for.
Yeah. So Gilly, make sure, and Kira, or we'll tell Amanda to make sure that we get those as soon as you release them. Make sure they go on that Mackay tourism page now, because we've got about 480 members or something now, and they're sort of people dedicated to like tourism. If I don't think somebody should be approved, I actually just don't approve them. But because I don't want people on
all that power
putting on random ads and things. So yeah, it really is a dedicated audience, like your target audience there. So make sure that you get that on there. Yeah.
Awesome. Thanks, Chrissy.
No worries. Kira, would you like to say something?
Yeah, why not? Yes.
I think Gilly did a really good job of covering that. Like she said, our markets have been exploding, and I mean, we're seeing up to 1,000 people on those Wednesday markets just coming and getting fresh produce. And it's more not little dribs and drabs, it's a consistent wave of people coming through, and also just getting their whole, you know, weekly fruit and vegetable shop, not just a few herbs and a few bits and pieces. It's people coming out with, you know, bags full of stuff, and it's fantastic. So and our farmers are super happy at the moment.
And then under that, vanilla sugar syrup.
Laura said to me the other day, she said, I don't think it's as busy. And I said, you have a look around how many bags people are actually carting around. And people, I said, our farmers are actually taking more money. I can see that today. And then all of a sudden, Margaret from Valentine Strawberries, who thought that she had enough produce till mid-morning, was sold out by about 4 minutes past 8. And it only started at 7 o'clock. Or actually, I let everyone in about 20 to 7 because we were organised early. And it was just, yeah. But they are. They're buying, like doing their whole grocery shop, which you can do this time of year.
Yeah, you can.
Nick came to our markets and he went back with boxes of stuff, didn't you, Nick?
Yeah, we had a really good shop this week. Locked in some things with a bunch of growers and producers as standing orders and, you know, specs that we want for the restaurant. So moving forward, we'll be doing some work with Kira. She's going to be setting up some things where we're going to be restaurant guinea pigs for, you know, future business to get into the restaurant scene within Mackay. So, you know, we'll dust out a few cobwebs with the backyard and, you know, hopefully we can get it all nutted out. I believe they're having a meeting tomorrow, Friday. Just to get all the things in place, ready to go, and moving forward, we'll be supporting a lot more than before.
Yay!
That's great.
Hey.
Thanks for being the guinea pig, Nick.
Yeah, hey, that's no problem.
Yeah, I have a bell. You get the bell ring.
Nice. Very good.
So at IMEO, our chef is currently writing a new menu. So is there like a database somewhere of like local growers and suppliers that he might be able to get in contact with?
We don't have a database per se. At the present moment, we are updating our website. So our current website has been just left to sit for the moment. So our new website will be up and running in the next 10, 12 days or so. Within that, you will be able to jump in and have a look at all of our members, what's their produce. There'll be their direct contact, so you can get in contact with them directly on our website. And I'm sure as we try and figure out how we're going to do restaurant planning and ordering with Nick and Kira, that we'll come up with some sort of a plan or a program, maybe even a possibility to draw out on a spreadsheet of some sort, a listing every week that we could send out to people. I don't know. But
can I make a suggestion,
hopefully,
Gillian? Because I've done this in a lot of areas. There's one really simple thing that works. Closed Facebook page where your producers go on there and put, this week we've got tomatoes, this, that and the other thing, or I'm planting such and such, and your restaurateurs will say, make connections so they'll look at it. We've just found it's a very simple way of doing it, but it's real time and it just, you know, just works its socks off. So that's not telling you how to do your thing, but we've just found that lots of complicated ways of doing it, but that's just a really good, simple way. And just before I forget, with Nick, we've had in other areas, farmers and restaurateurs talking to each other and farmers producing what they want. So we want, rainbow shard, or we want whatever. So they will go in and plant X amount for them on that basis. So that's really good when you get to that stage. So it sounds like you're having some of those discussions now.
Yeah.
James, I think that it'd even be worth you having a one-on-one with Nick with what he's sort of trying to do and the experience that you've you've had with that? You know, that might be a nice conversation for you too.
Sorry, I'm coming up, Nick, early January. We're just trying to sort some dates out, and I mean, I'd love to come and have lunch at your place and pay for it. It's not a freebie, but also to talk about the exciting thing about the experience and making that come alive and so forth. So be delighted to do that.
Well, I better come too, because we spend so much time together.
Oh, come on, Chrissy.
Me too.
And I'm happy to go and see other people. So just, it's not stepping on what Gillian and how are doing. It's about, you know, just our learnings from other areas. And as I say, not everything works in each area, but one of the things we've done in big areas is cut them down and have like hubs, or we call them micro regions. That's our sexy name for them. And that seems to work really well because you've got a community of interest there. I mean, it's great that you've got Bowen growers, but that's type of, you know, when we talk to people in Bowen, they said, yeah, but there's transport, there's this, there's that. Whereas you've got the first steps are to work in those smaller groups and areas, the communities of interest as such, and then start connecting those bigger hubs together. I'll be quiet now, Chrissy.
That's all right. Now, Andrea, what I was going to say that I'd recommend for your chef or your chef and whoever else devises the menu is Ash from Ibis, when she was first trying to build up her local produce, that what they were using at their restaurant. She basically just went down to the markets, walked around and talked to everybody, got interest. Then she sort of went back and then tried to make connections with them. And sometimes they don't get back to you very well. So basically then I got her to ring me, and I went round and gave the phone to all the farmers and said, I got Ash from Ibis. She really needs to sort out this pineapple thing with you, John. And we just did it like that. Like, it's very simple, but that's how it worked. And I think she uses about 5 different lots of local produce. She's got it written up on her menu. She's got like a little sort of display thing of what local produce is. But yeah, like she just went to the markets and sort of met the growers.
Mm. And that's
on mute.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll have a chat and we might try and organise that one week.
Yeah, because we've done it once. The second, a couple of times. The second or third time will be easier because the farmers are used to it now. It's not such a foreign beast. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I think it's a foreign beast to both parties. Really, a lot of the time is that the farmers are used to their way of
James,
selling.
I can't hear you very well.
Can't you? Well,
there we go. That's better.
That's better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's both sides. It's the farmers and the chefs, because there are standard ways of getting produce and selling produce and buying produce, and this is a bit different. So it's a matter of, if we'd have had our way and COVID hadn't been around, we would have been doing a lot of speed dating, getting people to hold hands, share produce, and so forth, and get relationships going. That didn't happen, but I think out of this we can still with Gillian do that and get that running, and then we're happy to talk to people about that other side of it, which is that experience side, and getting the experience so that your staff know what it's nothing worse than saying, what's this local fish, and you go, so what's the local fish? I don't know. It's like, okay, it's mackerel, and it was caught by Chrissy's boyfriend this morning at 6 a.m. And whatever. So you make a whole story out of it, because that's part of the thing of eating, and that's why it's really interesting. Everyone's now being able to go, we can go to restaurants again. It's fantastic, and it's part of that different thing just than eating at home. It's part of that theatre, that getting education, getting part of it, and so forth. So exciting stuff. I'm probably talking to the converted there, Nick, the way you were talking the other day. So, but that's great to see. And we need a few champions in on that. We need some people that take that up and show how it can be done, and show that it's really successful.
I found a new champion today.
Great.
Yeah. So I've forgotten his name. The people that have taken over the Goanna Brewing. Do you know his first name, Billy?
Yeah, Nige.
Not yeah.
Rachel.
Oh, he was really disappointed he couldn't come on this today, but he's going to try and do the next one where we, you know, like we mix some accommodation people with whatever. But talk about passionate and excited, and another one, you know, like Michelle Camilleri with her One Hungry Mama. So yeah, so we're sort of finding these people, I think, that will be really really helpful with this. Hey Andrew, the other thing that you've got is like world-class views. I mean, really, it doesn't get any better than that, really, does it?
Yeah, it's pretty special. I am doing my digital coach, and we were working on a marketing plan today with that as a big focus.
Perfect.
But the other thing with local produce not to forget is our bakers and our butchers. You know, there's in regional areas a lot of your butchers, in fact, some of them will have their own cattle and so forth. But, you know, I was talking to one the other day. He's got his own cattle. He's had the same pig supplier for 40 years. He does his own hams. He does his own small goods. That's all part of it. You know, we often forget about that. And the other thing with that is there's still some great regional bakeries around that don't just tip a bag full of premix into a mixer. They do themselves and have got great products. And I think sometimes we just forget about them because we think about the farmers. And then someone was talking the other day about a barra farm, a prawn farm. And so, you know, when I first started talking about it a couple of years ago, people said, oh, there's nothing here. And of course, what happens?
There's so much.
There is so much. And as you start talking to people, it comes out of the woodwork that so-and-so is doing this, such and such is doing that. So, you know, I think we've just got to be, it's not just people that produce things out of the ground on trees or whatever. It's also those that add value to it. And of course, I think people like brewers making beer are fantastic. So,
did you see Michelle's comment there? Supply chains to cafes and restaurants has been a problem since day one. We've established relationships with individual farmers, but don't know what the answer is, but happy to hear ideas.
So I think there's three bits in that. One is, yes, the relationship on one-on-one's great. Secondly, I've found in most areas that Facebook does work really well because it's connecting people in terms of distribution. And thirdly, we've seen in some areas, so I first met Taz, for instance. He was based in the Fraser Coast, Harvey Bay and Maryborough, and I was doing some work for Bundaberg in this field. And Fraser Coast and Maryborough doesn't grow a lot. They actually don't grow a lot in those areas. So there was such a demand for it is that we had someone made a business out of collecting produce in Childers and Bundaberg and driving the hour or so down to Maryborough or wherever to deliver. So there was a business gained out of it as well. So there's, you know, there are a number of ways of doing that. And I think there's no one answer for everyone. And the other thing is, as it grows, there's then opportunities to have different supply chains. It's really interesting. The lady I started doing with this in Bundaberg, who's now moved on to a place called Hampton near Toowoomba, she had her supply chain was mums bringing the kids into school, and she had given them a cup of coffee. She actually had an area out the back where she, you know, all the farmers and farmers' wives and whatever would come. So they just bring the fresh order in straight that morning in the back of the cafe, have a cup of coffee, and away they go. So it's literally as simple as that. To quite complex ones where you've got people who were producing a prawn farm and whatever, and that obviously meant that was a little bit more complex in getting the fresh product to them. But yeah, it is everyone learning and everyone, I think, trying different ways of doing it. I've got no more solution on it. I've seen Dobby, and I saw the folks in Toowoomba a few years ago put someone on, lovely person, and they had great plans of supply chains and cold rooms and all kinds of things, and it's just too complex and didn't, you know, it actually didn't suit this type of work, as in it was type of, then you had middlemen and you had all kinds of things. So, you know, and this won't necessarily suit everyone, but what we've found is that most people worked in it. I'm just looking at your questions here. The other thing is seasonality. So we should you know, it's lovely to have a dish on all year round that's what everyone loves, but seasonality is an issue, and it's a positive issue because in Australia we're probably been a bit spoilt because we can get a lot of produce year round, and your oranges come from Florida and your cherries come from whatever. In Europe, they basically, whilst you can do that, if it's not a stone fruit season, you don't see stone fruit at the market. But you see what's in at that time. So this time last year I was in France and the white asparagus was in, which only comes in for about 4 weeks or so. And, you know, they look forward to it. They relish it. It's part of the sell of the thing is, here's this thing that's only on for 4 weeks at this time of the year. So let's have a lot of, you know, dishes with white asparagus and celebrate it. You know, the other way is, as I see there is, you know, things like signature dish. And you know, that's another way of dealing with it. But I think it's part of that story that you do with the consumer as well, is that we're educating the consumer that you know, not being critical, but probably oranges that were picked in Florida 6 months ago aren't exactly the best, freshest, most wonderful thing to put on your plate. And wouldn't it be great if you've got some lychees there or whatever it is that are around at this time of the year that have just been picked down at Don's place down the road. So it's part of that story and telling people. It's not just forcing it on them. And then you don't have to have everything with local produce because, you know, that's a thing where, you know, you may want to have some signature dishes on where where you just have so much demand. If you took it off, you'd have people riot. Certainly, if you want to have those on it, but with the ones with local produce, make sure you really tell the story on those ones. We've lost you, Chrissy. You're muted.
I've muted myself. So Adrian, is there an opportunity to create a platform where farmers update what they have to offer? Is that where you're suggesting that we're better off probably doing the Facebook thing, or?
Yeah, because it's a nice, you know, the great thing about the Facebook thing is it's a closed thing between the restaurants and cafes and the growers. They can say what they've got at the moment. They can also perhaps put an indication out. We're looking at growing parsnips or, you know, whatever it's going to be. Is there anyone interested in that? So it becomes that connection between people, as well as obviously the ones where you've got one-on-ones and you've got that great opportunity to get a relationship with a producer.
I suppose I can sort of understand what Adriette's saying, you know, especially that they've got that, you know, that they can't regularly change their menu, but I suppose you'd have to have some sort of idea or chart or something of how long you're going to be having that amount of produce for. I mean, unless the weather goes shit.
Yeah, and that's for the larger people. That's for that discussion, and you know, like Nick's talking about potentially getting them to grow things for him and so forth. So that's where you get that relationship happening. And you say, you know, I'd like Dutch cream potatoes when you're able to, whatever, and I can, you know, deal with 10 kilos a week. Or whatever it is. So they can actually be, it's not the right word, but like contract growing them for you specifically. And that's happening in a lot of areas now where people want specific things grown for them. They can do that. So, you know, that's part of the maturing of the relationship, and it happens quite quickly. We had a dinner where we had the producers and the restaurateurs, you know, on a quiet night, a Monday night, which is usually the night, where we had them all at the dinner together. So, and using local produce. So again, it gave opportunities for farmers who don't normally do this to stand up in front of the crowd and say, hey, you know, I'm really proud I grew those peas, or I did whatever, and you know, happy to talk to any of you about. And so, you know, it's a journey, and it's about creating those relationships. Some of which will be done electronically, and some which will be done by relationship of phone calls and visiting and so forth.
What I might do is we'll just get Dan on quickly just to explain about the new the new video they put out today, and just a little bit of our campaign. Some of you might have heard this, but he's only just going to jump on for 5 minutes. I'll just say now, please. And I'll send him a link. So keep the conversation happening. I'll just do this.
You could sing something for us, Chrissy.
Sorry?
You could sing for us, perhaps, or
No, that wouldn't be good.
I just wanted to say that from what James was saying, it's really fantastic and very important to create that relationship with the producer. So we have our farmers market every Wednesday morning from roughly 7 a.m. until 11 a.m. and, you know, you're more than welcome to come down, have a chat, see what they have, what they're able to supply for you, what they can put aside, and then, you know, organise the time to come back and, you know, pick it up each week, or, you know, that would be an individual restaurant to, you know, sort of farmers discussion to have. That's probably the easiest way to deal with some of our supply chain issues that we have regionally, because we're so spread out. We have folk who come all the way from Broken River, from Bloomsbury, from Proserpine, you know, from Eton, from down Serena way. So we've got a lot of our producers do a number of miles to get into the market, and, you know, having the market at Blue Water Quay is a really nice little central spot that, you know, people can converge to. So, yeah.
Yeah, Michelle used to come every Wednesday to get her produce before COVID came along.
Yeah.
I've just got Dan here, and I know how pressed he's been for time lately. Can you just give everybody a little update on the campaigns and maybe let them know about Good to Go, about today as well?
Yeah, so we've got a couple of campaigns running at the moment. We've got our Mates Rates campaign that we're doing in partnership with Tourism with Sundays. So I think we had about 18 operators participate in that sort of sent out deals. And that's in market at the moment. So we're promoting through social media. In print, there's a couple of billboards up around the place. It's obviously with Tourism with Sunday, so there's quite some exciting marketing opportunities that we've managed to secure. We've also got the VFR campaign that we launched, the Visiting Friends and Relatives campaign that we launched last week. So that's one about inspiring locals to get out and create content for us, and basically just flood social media with as much sort of positive imagery as we can to inspire, obviously, family and friends to come and visit. So we've got two competitions. There's the our Isaac competition and my Mackay competition. So we've had a few hundred entries already, because it's pretty easy to enter. It's just use the relevant hashtag for Instagram or Facebook photos. The other campaign that Chrissy mentioned is the Good to Go campaign. So that's one that Tourism Events Queensland launched. It's basically to coincide with the restrictions starting to ease from COVID. So you'll see that we sent out in the last newsletter a few tiles to use. So whether that's you just put them up on social media or on your website or anything like that. We'll obviously be doing posts as well. I think there was a video that Rainey posted today that had a few local operators and both mayors on it. Basically just advertising that the Mackay region rather is good to go sort of post COVID. So obviously it's still quite a few businesses that are shut around the place, but things are slowly starting to get into gear, and fingers crossed those borders will open up on the 11th of July, and we'll start to, slowly start to see some interstate travellers come up. So it's a pretty competitive time at the moment. There's obviously, tourism starting to kick back into a lot of places. So it's a very competitive market, and we're doing as much as we can to, I guess, get Mackay featured as prominently as we can. That's probably the main marketing update. Sorry, Chrissy, you muted.
I'm talking to myself here.
Go on, Dad. So
And probably a lot of those campaigns is for all our members and that to get really involved with it. So I shared that video today to like my Lazy Runners page. I'm going to put it on my Mackay Marina Run page and sort of say to people, oh, sorry you couldn't come for the run, but come and try out our running tracks anyway. You know, we're good to go.
Yep.
And yeah, and I'm going to share it with just like my kids down in Brisbane and, you know, just all people that, you know, who aren't in Mackay, so that they at least see it, even if they don't book right now, they're looking at booking because it's pretty, it's nice.
Yeah, and that's the thing where, you know, we're trying to get as many visitors here as we can, and you know, grow that pie so individual operators can, you know, get a bigger slice of that pie, and yeah, hopefully we'll start to get more visitors come through.
I was going to put it on the Greater Whit Sunday Food Network one, but I know Amanda's been doing it, so I sort of left it in case she was putting something else up. So I'll leave that one with you girls, okay? Right, Dan, does anyone want to ask Dan any questions before he goes back to his other work? Looks like you got out of this one easily, Dan. Thanks so much.
I was going to say, does anyone want to write about 4 letters of support for me? That would be great.
No, actually, I've got enough of my own work. Ta-ta.
I know. Thanks, everyone.
See ya.
Thanks. So there's a whole lot of opportunities there. And as I say, I'll be up in early July, which is not far off. The calendar keeps reminding me. Because we've nicely won a couple more grants to do some other work around the place. But
Yahoo.
Yeah, Yahoo indeed. Not around food, other things, but you know, it's important. So we'll catch up with you while I'm up there.
It'd be really nice, Kira, and I would, like to catch up with you over a coffee, or maybe that trip when you go out to have lunch at Nick's with Chrissy, we can come out with you.
Right, okay. So anyone else along the way? No. Happy to do that. Happy to come to the markets, whatever, because I'll be in town for a few days. So
lovely.
Yeah, that would be great.
It's just about sharing things, you know, like, as I say, not everything works everywhere or for everyone, but there's some nice simple ways we can do things, which is really around about relationships, and whether it's face-to-face or whether it's on a Facebook page, it's about knowing people and, you know, understanding what they want. And, you know, I can talk to you about what QT Hotels do, which is a very zany hotel chain around Australia, and they pride themselves on having local food. They have a local table there in their restaurants, and they have someone that they call a fossicker goes out, a food fossicker. Who goes out and you know, talks to the farmers and so forth. So, you know, that's an interesting model. They've got one in the Gold Coast. They've got one in Port Douglas. They've got Sydney, Melbourne, Canberra. So wherever they are, they try and have this local table of food. So good stuff.
Yeah,
and it is the fastest growing segment of tourism in the world. So
that's a good funding thing, to get a food fossicker.
That's it.
I love that.
Yeah, I love the name. I think it's fantastic.
I'm actually just looking at Nick Flack, thinking he would be, I know he's busy with his own restaurant, but with
spare time,
the passion that Nick has for local food, for foods, for, you know, regional, you know, provincial foods is just, the exact thing that you want. Maybe you can train the fossicker for us here in Mackay, Nick.
Yeah, I'll swap somebody 6 hours of ironing on a Monday morning for fossicking.
Hey, Chrissy just put a hand up.
Yeah, perfect.
I don't buy clothes that need ironing.
Yeah, linen for the restaurant.
Catherine just said she loves food
while you go fossicking.
Catherine from the Serena Motel said she loves fossicking. Okay, Catherine. Good stuff. We're finding some fossickers and we don't even have to get off our Zoom session.
Look, you know, we could go on about it, but, you know, we talked before about seasonal things. This lady, Amanda Hines, has done very well in it. When the avocado season's not on and they're getting those bruised things from New Zealand, which are really expensive, and not being rude, that's all you got in that season. Although we did hear, Chrissy, that they had some in Youngala out of season. So, which is interesting. Yeah. So, but she just doesn't, you know, everyone wants, you know, the old standard thing is smashed avocado on toast with a, you know, poached egg on top. she refuses to do that during that time of the year, and she does a beetroot dish at that time of the year, and because that's in fresh. And she just tells people, well, like, I don't dislike New Zealanders, I don't dislike, but have a look at them. Here's what they look like when you are. This is not what I expect to serve. I expect to serve something creamy, fresh, not bruised, etc., etc. And so I don't want to sell that to you. I want to sell you something different at this time of the year. And let's celebrate come March or April or whatever it is when the photos come in or whatever it's going to be. And so let's celebrate that and then have great avocado on toast. So it's all about the story and the experience as well.
Nick, Lynn from Dolphin Head's going to do the ironing.
Oh,
Fantastic.
this is a great session.
Good. I'll be happy with that.
I love this. Like we said, we're discovering
New talents.
new every time we do this. Oh,
You need to buy a steamer, it'll make it a bit quicker.
she said, as long as there's an ironing press. It comes with conditions.
Yeah.
That's why I don't buy clothes that need ironing. I try not to.
Good.
And if you've got a linen shirt, you don't iron it anyway.
No.
So, Chrissy, in terms of actions from here, we'll certainly, when I'm up there, talk to some people, and Gillian, obviously yourself, and go and see what Nick's doing, and have a chat to a few people just to get some juices flowing and some ideas. We will have a look at Chrissy on getting out to all the restaurants a mechanism where they can put a message up, probably on the Mackay Tourism Facebook page, members and others, about when they're open, so that people in motels can quickly go to one source and know where it is. And we had a couple of ideas about other things, but it's on Chrissy's 2.5-page list out of these meetings that she's got already.
No, it's about 5 pages long now.
That's 5 times. Okay, that's all right. Well, that's good. Good to see you working. So we will come back out of it in the next week or so. And we will also be doing, as I think Chrissy mentioned before, some of the new products that we've found on these things. We'll be inviting them to come on, and then for a larger audience or a wider audience to be able to come and listen to what they've got to say about their new products. So that includes if there are producers, if there are people who want to get into that would be fantastic. We'll have petting farms, we'll have whale watchers, we'll have gold diggers.
Yeah, it's just been interesting, just the conversations that started conversations. I always say activity creates activity, and that's sort of what this is doing. But when you come up, James, just so that people don't miss out, I might even try and organise a group of people that we can just sort of sit, just have a light lunch at one of the cafes or whatever, just so that we can have that conversation, and whether it be afternoon tea because their lunch is too busy, because quite a lot of people are still operational, they're working in their business rather than to be able to step away a bit. So
yep, no, happy to do that. So it'll probably be in the first full week of July, so which is not far away, about 2.5 weeks away.
I'm thinking it'd be good for you to be here on a Wednesday as well. Maybe some of the restaurateurs, that their chefs haven't actually, come and had a look at the local produce, sort of get them down.
Yeah, I'll be there on a Wednesday. On
that day. That would be quite cool if we could do that. Introduce them to each other, and then, what will be, will be.
Yep. Delighted to do that.
I better put that on my list. Hang on.
Well, we're opening the restaurant a couple of more shifts in the new financial year. We'll be opening Thursday, Friday lunch. So that might tie in with your visit up as well, James.
Right. All right.
Can you pop that up on the Mackay region Facebook for us, Nick?
Yeah, I've just jotted that down. I'll get onto that this afternoon. So yeah we're launching that for the new financial year.
Yeah, because then people can sort of, they can plan, I suppose, if they know what's happening. And I know, quite a lot of the accountants and people like that, they like to sort of have an end of financial year get together. And when I was at the chamber, the last one I organised, I had about 9 member-based groups, and we all went down to Ashtart over the river, and we had about 180 people at it. And
Yeah.
it was just sort of, instead of them having to organise their own end of year gathering, I organise it for everybody. And it wasn't that hard, but it was, just all these member-based groups. So you'll find, particularly accountants and solicitors and that, they just love this end of financial year get together. So there's a little hint for you.
Yeah, it might be a bit late. We haven't got anything planned until the new financial year, because the next 2 weekends are our biggest booking weekends since opening in November. So, which is a great thing. Yeah, great thing to see. Yeah,
and I mean, people, they're sort of flexible with how they do it now, I think, as well, because everything's so confusing. Everyone's so confused. Just say that the 14th of July is the end of the financial year, and people probably believe you at the moment.
Yeah, very true.
But yeah, it's just sort of putting it in their mind so that they know that you've got that available. And
So
sounds
there's
good.
a couple of comments there we should address. There's one about the Facebook page where it's just difficult to get members to interact on the MTL page.
Is that?
That's from Michelle. That's 3 up. So on the comments there from Michelle's iPhone.
All right. So okay, that's a good feedback. So what I might do is between our work colleagues, we might just make sure that we're sort of commenting more, putting pictures in the comments and things like that. Maybe that's what we can do, because once somebody puts something up, if somebody comments on it, with a relevant sort of comment, and then somebody else comments, and then maybe we'll try and be more focused with trying to keep that conversation, I suppose. So if anybody...
And then a really good comment from Lynn just to balance that out.
Yeah, that'd be great.
So
look at that. Lynn from Dolphin Head said it does help to brainstorm with others. I've just made contact with Andrea because they're just across the water during this Zoom meeting, and we're catching up on Monday to talk about opportunities. Yay! Going. There we go. All right. Anybody else like to make any comments or would like us to do anything, or what can we do to help you?
Okay.
All good?
I'm all good.
Well,
like great to catch up with James and have a chat when he's here face to face with Kira, and yeah,
that'd be really good. And like we said, we'll get...
interested. Anyone else that's interested, Chrissy,
absolutely.
So you could run my diary for me if you like.
Now I need a personal assistant. Oh my God. I told Taz I needed a personal assistant.
Oh, I got it the wrong way around. Sorry. I thought he said you were going to be my personal assistant.
You're just very confused. Michelle, you heard that, didn't you? All right then. Well, if we've got nothing else to comment. Anybody out there who hasn't got their videos on want to say anything?
No, I think I'm fine at the moment. I think that was really good. I'll have to have a talk with my chef and maybe get him down to the market sometime soon.
Yeah, it's really nice just having a little wander around. It's lovely there by the river, but we're open from 7 till 11. So, if the chef doesn't like getting out of bed early, he doesn't have to get out too early. But yeah, definitely worthwhile. Actually, probably worth, Gillian, I know that Deb used to do this quite a bit. She'd do a Facebook Live at the markets and have a little chat with the farmers. We haven't really done that so much lately.
So we're doing a whole new Facebook strategy. We've been working on that for the last month.
Yeah.
With the farmers market page. So we're just trying to understand what's working and what's not, and then we start to bring back that live rather than maybe doing the photographs on the Wednesday morning. And how you do the post with the photographs and everything. So maybe we do that do that post and then have a live that would come in after that. I'm not sure. So yeah, for the moment, we're just trying to figure out what's working and what's not, and then we'll start introducing some new sort of activities there.
I might try doing
Something we
one.
want to do.
Okay,
Yeah,
I might
do one for
try
sure.
doing one with my Mackay tourism page and just
Why not?
see what happens. I'll be a guinea pig. I'll see what happens.
Okay, thank you.
That's okay.
Chrissy, good follow-up to today, really, to do that.
What's that, sorry?
That's a good follow-up to today, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, so we need everybody, all the restaurants and that, to put their times and that up. Times and days open, please. That would be fabulous. And even if you're using local produce at the moment, pop it on there so that, you know, like somebody like Melissa can say, oh, so Andrea has this great place out at the IMEO Hotel, and I know that she's started using fresh eggs from Freckle Farm or whatever. So, but she'll be able to tell that, the motel owners be able to tell that little story from what we each of us see on Facebook. It's a start.
Yeah.
It's certainly not perfect, but it's a good start.
Great start.
Okay. Did I just give myself some more jobs?
Yeah, I think so.
That's all right. All right then, we might say farewell and thank you all again. It's been wonderful, everybody sharing their thoughts and making the time to come on, because I know how busy everybody is. And let's say a big shout out to Local Buying Foundation as well. They've been wonderful.
Thank you, Chrissy. Thanks for organising everything, and thanks so much, James, for your skill and expertise.
Pleasure, and we look forward to getting it rolling.
Yeah,
Let's do this.
Our agri-tourism session and we were sort of supposed to have, that was okay, but it wasn't quite as full as we were going to have. And this business sort of reset for success sort of thing, it's just nicely overlapping now, really. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okie doke, everybody.
Cool.
All right.
Thank you.
Bye. I'll
Thank
put
you.
it up there when we have all the other sessions. Bye. Bye, Catherine. Thank you for jumping on.